Everybody. So, here is McCall's from July 1984, and it has Princess Diana on the cover, which is not unusual for this time period. The wedding had just occurred, so does Reagan deserve your vote? Eye-opening report. Princess Diana, my new baby will be luckier than poor William. That's interesting. Christina Onassis, she lost 100 pounds for love. Mothering 10 ways the game has changed. I'm always hungry. How to get your body under control. After a wife's affair, repairing the damage. How America Surprised Me. Joan Collins, Michael Caine, and many other British actors. All of this and Charlie Brown too. So on the back, there's an ad for a Kodak trim print, which is it's an instant camera, kind of like competition for Polaroid. Polaroid was all the rage then. That was the closest thing you could get to. I mean, nowadays we don't appreciate what it was like to have an instant camera back then. But an instant camera cost a lot of money. The film cost even more. Like a pack of 10 snapshots cost $25. And if you wanted to shoot inside, you had to get the flash bulbs, and they had 10 flash bulbs, and every time you did an exposure, it would exhaust a flash bulb. So, or you could get a camera that had a built-in flash. I had the kind where you had to buy the flash bulbs. So this is going to be a trip down memory lane. I'm going to tell you some stories about the 1980s. Why lose your color to gray when you can lose your gray to loving care color film? So this was a woman's magazine, by the way. It's hard to find 80s magazines, so I take what I can get. So I'm gonna do my best to find memories and everything. But here's something right now. NutraSweet had come out, and it was the big competition for saccharin, which was Sweet and Low, the little pink packets of sweetener, and NutraSweet was the blue packets, and now we have yellow ones. But at this time, here's some of the products, like sugar-free hot chocolate milk mix, some kind of dessert pudding, hot chocolate, squirt. So they're trying to promote the new NutraSweet. What's better than reading what people say about NutraSweet is tasting why they said it. So yeah, they're trying to promote the new sweetener. And of course, when NutraSweet came out, all of the the scary stories about how it caused cancer or whatever came out with it. Christy Brinkley, she was in National Lampoon's Vacation. I think she was considered one of the most beautiful women in the world. Of course, cigarette ads. True 100s, the distinctive filter. Flavor chamber filter delivers unprecedented taste from ultra low tar. This Lady Speed Stick. Leg warmers were obviously a thing in the 80s. Some weight loss stuff. Here's a coupon to save 50 cents when you buy Perm Life. Renews it. This was the old air freshener from the 80s that you would take this thing and twist it, and it would expose this sort of gelatin interior that supposedly fresh in the air. Just sort of smelled like chemicals. I don't know if they still make those or not. They might. They last about a week. Another coupon. Christina Onassis, losing 100 pounds for love. Deluxe 100 Benson and Hedges cigarettes. Bare Elegance. This is, she played Wonder Woman, Linda Carter. And here's something interesting. This is one of those. It's a book club. So what the funny thing about book club books? A lot of people wondered how they made them so cheap. Well, actually, if you can generally tell a book club book by looking at it. They were cheaper. They were printed. They were usually rough cut, which meant that the paper, um, like the front paper, was cut really rough. It wasn't smooth. They were generally printed on a cheaper paper. They might have had less glossy effects. So that they were made cheaper. That's the truth. When they turn up in used bookstores and stuff, they're usually the books that didn't hold up very well. The paper starts to get brittle. Um, and I think that's a famous piece of art, actually. Um, Natalie Wood, Pet Cemetery by Stephen King. So, kind of like their Columbia House and everything, you would pick out some books you wanted, and then they would just keep sending them to you. Star Trek 3. And they have something here, so if the kids are looking at the magazine or the husband's looking at the magazine, they're going to see something here that they're going to want. And then you get 6 bestsellers for 99 cents and a tote bag, and then they will keep sending them to you. Now here's some foreign actors talking about how America surprised them. Joan Collins. What really most amazed me was the gregariousness of everyone I met. I was extremely young when I came here and wasn't at all used to such familiarity. In England, it's Mr., Mrs., Miss at the airport from the porters on up. It was, "Hi, honey, how are you?" So, Ricardo Montalban. Mexico, what astounded me most about this country was its generosity. For instance, when the Red Cross calls for help with any kind of disaster, Americans respond with great generosity. Sheena Easton from Scotland. She said the thing that surprised me the most was how non-threatening American cities are. The image we have in Britain we get from movies and television, but the violence in America is no more overt than any of the major cities in Britain. Michael Caine. He's from England. If you see some guy riding in a Rolls Royce in England, you say, well, one day we will get him out of that and destroy it. In America, a guy says, one day I'm going to have a car just like that. That's a basic psychological difference in the two countries. That's interesting. Jane Seymour. In England, things are very class conscious. In America, it's much freer thinking. They give you a chance. When I was making a film in Springfield, Illinois, Governor Thompson made me an honorary citizen. That's the closest I've ever come to being an American. Alexander Godunov, he defected from Russia. A big surprise for me was this similarity of temperaments between the Russian and American people. Not politics, of course, but character. Russians are open-hearted and friendly just like Americans. The essential difference is, of course, that Americans are much more open about it. So that's some foreigners' impressions of America. It's interesting to read a magazine and see celebrities saying something nice about America. It was a different time. And Polaroid, instant cameras. Land O'Lakes Country Morning Blend margarine. I vaguely remember that. And Land O'Lakes puts this much butter in every pound of Country Morning blend. So it's a mixture of butter. And Raid. Some other cigarette ad. Now your favorite dry bleach for colors. Look at the old Clorox box. This is a movie guide and it has for the ages, for 8 and up. You can watch Iceman, which I watched when I was a kid. It was about they found a caveman and they thawed him and brought him back to life. It says a prehistoric man who's been frozen in glacial ice for 40,000 years is discovered at an Arctic research station, thawed, and brought back to life. The movie is beautiful to look at and unexpectedly touching as the Iceman, innocent, lost, alone, and frightened, relates to those around him. Unfortunately, the story develops into yet another concocted and boring struggle between cold science, whose proponents want to dissect the creature to discover what enabled him to survive, and humanists like the young anthropologist played by Timothy Hutton, who can't imagine what the Iceman's future could be, but wants him alive, learn from him, and take care of him. One unintentional murder. What do they mean by that last sentence? One unintentional murder. Oh, that's what they're saying. The thing to watch out for. So this is kind of like advice for parents. So that's kind of interesting thing. Here's Romancing the Stone. A sad sack writer of adventure romances, Kathleen Turner, with no man and no excitement in her life, is suddenly summoned to Colombia. Her sister's being held hostage by bad guys who are after a hidden treasure, and the writer must bring them the map. Will she meet a dashing stranger in the jungle who will join forces with her to look for the treasure and save her sister? Will they fall in love? Will she change her hairstyle? This fantasy adventure doesn't answer these questions in a way that will surprise you, but it's often fun and has a certain flair and a plucky heroine, and only 2 rough scenes: a quick look at a man in flames, and the bloody stump of a man's hand, and the rest of which is in a crocodile's mouth. Brief sex, a few rough words. So then we have movies that are 11 and up. 16 Candles. Like many other 16-year-olds, Samantha Molly Ringwald, who has a bratty younger brother and a self-absorbed older sister about to be married, is dissatisfied with the way she looks. She envies the pretty, apparently self-confident girlfriend of a handsome senior Samantha adores from afar. The movie's appeal for a 13-year-old near me, oh, it was wonderful, I wish it would happen to me, is that the girl who has everything is actually shallow and drinks too much, shown as unattractive, while the adored boy cares more about a person being really nice and potentially sexy and can respond to these qualities even though they are buried inside an awkward and shy teenager like Samantha. Some bathroom language poking fun at a few of the less attractive kids, and the showing off of a girl's bikini panties are proof of a boy's sexual success. In the recent times, the movie's become very controversial for lots of reasons that were not as, well, I don't know, it wasn't considered problematic at that time. So, The Stone Boy with Robert Duvall, a spare story about what happens after a 12-year-old Montana farm boy accidentally shoots and kills his 19-year-old brother, moves us on 2 levels. It shows quietly and slowly how shock, grief, and anger separate the surviving boy's sister and parents, Glenn Close, Robert Duvall, from him. Because he doesn't cry or talk about what happened or about his brother, they think he doesn't realize the import of what he's done or feel remorse or grief. Only his grandfather understands and reaches out to him. The movie also touches us because its tragedy and subsequent failures of communication and love have resonance. They provoke memories and feelings about the more ordinary values of understanding and generosity of spirit that separate us from each other. The younger person I saw the movie with cried. Swing Shift, that was about World War II. Purple Hearts, I think that was about Vietnam. The Bounty, which was a really good movie. The remake of Where the Boys Are. And For No One, Friday the 13th, the final chapter. Chop it off, chop his hand off, shrieked a little girl near me as the killer maniac who stalks sexually active teens is finally cornered. Maybe make my day, Yoda boy, using the by now famous expression from Clint Eastwood's latest celebration of individual initiative. Aroused by a string of grisly killings, a knife through the throat, a nose punched into a boy's brains, an axe in his chest, the audience screams to release the building tension. The movie, about 6 high school kids who rent a country house together, is constructed to the current horror film code, Puritan to the core. The girl who got her rep in the 3rd grade is doomed. The boy who twirls his sex partner's bikini panties gets a corkscrew through his hand. I thought a nice mother, she lived next door, was safe, but after she disappears into the darkness, I remembered she was divorced. You can tell who is likely to survive by noticing who doesn't have sex. The movie's pairing of sex and violence and its stirring up of the audience into a lynch mob frenzy makes it not such healthy fun. Partial nudity, raw language, sexual stereotyping. So that's, at the time, what they thought of Friday the 13th, the final chapter. But if you listened to all of that, you would have gotten a lot of clues about the 80s, like the "Go Ahead and Make My Day." That was a Clint Eastwood quote that was used ad nauseum in the 80s. Even the President Reagan used it. Tone soap, I remember that. That was a very popular soap in the 80s. Virginia Slims. This was like women's lib cigarettes, and then they had "With this ring I thee wed," and it shows the husband ring for supper, and she brings him supper. Ring for paper, and she brings him paper. It's pretty sexist. And then ring for slippers, and she brings the slippers. And then it says, "You've come a long way, baby," Virginia Slims, and it shows kind of like the modern 80s woman. But see, it's kind of sad that they're using that to sell cigarettes. But doesn't everything nowadays use politics to sell their stuff too? So I don't really see that things have changed that much. Corette, expensive in every way but the price. Good example of 80s clothing. Feel expensive. I want you to have my newest 9x12 lithograph free. Innocence by Bob Harrison. So if you want to start collecting this kind of art, which would probably be pretty popular today, Dexatrim. Caffeine-free weight loss medicine, probably not good for you. Oh, Gerber baby food. So when I got my wisdom teeth removed, I had to eat baby food because I was at that age where the wisdom teeth had kind of fused to my jawbone and everything. So it was a pretty painful operation, and I had quite a few days of recovery. So I ate baby food during that time, and I got a taste for it. I started liking it. I used to think it was really gross. I don't think it's changed very much since then. They might have more flavors. The fact is, though, the flavors are for the adults, just like for cat treats. The cats don't care, babies don't care. They make those flavors for the adults. The Satin Woman has great taste. Look at these. Look at this pack of cigarettes with the gold embossed. That's some expensive packaging. But interestingly enough, in the 1980s, not that I smoked, but in the 1980s, you could buy a pack of cigarettes for pocket change. And it's only been since I've been an adult that the price of cigarettes became, so restrictively expensive. And that was the most effective way to get people to quit. If you get right down to it, they tried everything and anything, but when you could buy a pack of cigarettes for 40 or 50 cents, you're not going to quit. But if it costs $5 or $6, yeah, you have a real incentive to quit then. And we still got the coupon. Looks like it somehow got sliced here, and it might have gotten sliced in the magazine press. You see that? That's kind of amazing. I think that was totally sliced when the magazine was cut. Because the card was kind of poking out here. And here's the music you could get from Columbia Record and Tape Club. Could you still get 8-tracks? I was at a thrift store the other day and I saw an 8-track case, and I kind of wanted to get it to put my 8-tracks in it, but that's kind of silly too. But like the Footloose soundtrack. This is some popular music in '84. Culture Club, controversial. Cyndi Lauper, controversial at the time. Footloose, my music teacher loved this movie. My 4th grade teacher thought the world was going to hell in a handbasket because of Boy George. The Police, Van Halen was considered really, really hard rock. Lionel Richie. Kenny Rogers, everyone loved Kenny Rogers. Michael Jackson, Thriller, that was a very, very controversial tape when it came out. And the video, I mean, parents were not letting their kids watch it and everything. It was such a different time. What do most women ignore their need for Oscal until it's... Why do most women ignore their need for Oscal until it's too late? Well, that's one of those scare ads because when you're young, you don't think about your bones giving out. It's probably the last thing on your mind. So I don't sit around and think about it. I mean, I guess in a few decades I'll probably regret it, but Pine Sol in a plastic bottle instead of a glass bottle because they used to be in glass bottles and then they would slip and fall and shatter all over the floor that you're cleaning. This is what clean smells. They should have put a scratch and sniff sticker here. That would have been perfect. Then you could have scratched it and smelled lemon or whatever. The official antiperspirant of the Miss USA, Miss Universe pageant. Now that's something that's changed a lot. In the 80s, it was, for one thing, in the 80s when Miss USA and Miss Universe was on, everyone watched it. Because, you know, you had only a few channels. So everyone watched it, everyone followed it. It was a big deal. I'll get some coffee, excuse me. But it's really not a big deal now. It's been, it's the current, the way people are today, I'm surprised it even still exists. But once again, it was a different time. Like when the Macy's Thanksgiving Parade came on, I mean, everybody watched it. It was required viewing. You got up with your family and you watched it, and it was part of the Thanksgiving experience. Big scrapes cry for extra help. Band-Aid and bandages. Lightline. I remember this. This is processed cheese. Remember my mom got it a few times. I remember the little mouse girl, and I remember it was awful. It was waxy. It was like a candle that had been sliced into slices. Tasteless, hard, waxy. I don't care if they said Monterey Jack or Colby or mozzarella or American or Sharp. It didn't taste like cheese. I hated it. It was gross. Wet Ones. Wet Ones was one of those things when they came out. It was like an epoch-changing thing because suddenly you could drive farther. You could be on. We would be in a car trip as a kid when I was a kid. And if we had Wet Ones, that just meant less stops. Because Wet Ones replaced bathrooms and sinks to wash your hands or to clean your face and everything. And it really, the only thing I always associate Wet Ones with being in the backseat of a car and my dad driving for, 25 hours to get somewhere. And, we don't need to stop. Just get the Wet Ones if you spilled something. So those belong in the car to me. Slim Fast, oh boy, still exists as far as I know. They're trying to get in on the whole keto thing now. From what I understand, it's not really keto. The stuff that they're branding as keto, but iron supplements. Aquaban water pill, eliminate excess water. I used to gain 2 to 3 pounds of water every month. It's a dog here. Ladies' Choice antiperspirant. There was a real popular commercial in the 80s. I think it was for Secret, and it was they said strong enough for a man but made for a woman, and and you know what, there weren't a lot of deodorants back then. You had to settle with the scent of Right Guard or Brute, and they were all basically the same. They were like, you rubbed this transparent green block of waxy stuff that burned a little bit, and It wasn't any. I mean, deodorants nowadays are just they're kind of a joy. I mean, they're gentle and mild, and they work longer, and they go on invisible. If you had the white deodorant, the white stick, that stuff was gonna get everywhere. It was gonna get all your clothes. It was gonna get on your car seats. It was gonna, if you put on your shirt after you applied the deodorant, it was gonna be all over your shirt. Deodorant was not really mastered at this point. So, Players Go Places. It's another brand of cigarettes that I don't think exists anymore. There was a lot. I mean, well, like once again, I'm not a smoker, but it looks like the same ones are the reigning ones, like Marlboro, Camel, Lucky Strike, all that stuff. My drug of choice is coffee. And I drink lots of coffee, and I do drink a little bit of Thai food tea. Jello, instant pudding. Since the 70s and 80s were just basically a continuation of the 50s. I grew up with lots of Jello, Jello desserts and stuff, and I still have a taste for it. But I don't even know if people still make it that much. But Jello modes and all that stuff, we still had those. My mom would make ambrosia, I think it was called, like a little fruit and Jello dessert. Fresh fruit jamboree, a cheese pie, easy as can be. Fresh fruit cheese pie, that actually looks good. Friskies cat food. There's a bunch of coupons here. I wonder if we could take these to see if they could still work. Save 35 cents on 2 cartons. It'd be kind of funny just to pull these out and then try to use them at a store. Like these 1984 coupons and see. Like, I have this coupon for Friskies. Like, I'm sorry, sir. This expired 36 years ago. So, Planters king size corn chips. I don't see those anymore. Looks like Fritos. Raid Yard Guard. Let's just spray Raid all over your yard too. I remember that. It had a bigger stream. We were obsessed with taking care of roaches in the 80s, let me tell you. Vantage cigarettes. Look at the way he's dressed. The pink shirt and the suspenders. And then she's wearing like what men wear today, with the sweater vest and everything. It's kind of funny. Crispy fried chicken with Crisco. The funny thing about Crisco, which was really popular in the 80s, is because it had fooled everybody into thinking that since it was made out of vegetable oil, that it was somehow healthy. The fact of the matter is they made it solid by injecting hydrogen into it. And therefore, with all of that hydrogen that makes the Crisco hard, it's the same as lard. It's no less healthy than lard because they've just basically taken vegetable oil and turned it into lard. That's why don't be fooled by Crisco. It's not healthy for you. If you want a fried chicken, fry it in oil or something, or use an air fryer. But I mean, I'm not gonna say it doesn't taste good. Crisco tastes great. But I'll tell you something else. When I grew up in the 80s, people still use lard a lot. And when they made cake and they made the frosting with lard instead of Crisco, that tasted really good. To be at some friend's house for a birthday party and the birthday cake had the frosting made out of lard, it was incredibly good. And I'm not ashamed of saying that. I mean, it was a different time. President Reagan's top 10 accomplishments on issues of concern to women. The 10 most harmful things Ronald Reagan has done to women during his administration. So, even today, though, interestingly enough, and I mean, I don't like to get political, but the fact is, look at how reasonable and tame this is compared to the politics nowadays. Look at how they're like, good, bad, and it's not like vulgar tweets or, rants with F word and calling supporters Nazis and everything. I mean, it was, things were different. People were nicer. So strange. Are you a better mother than your mother? first time. Oh, here's a story. I don't know if McCall still prints fiction or not. Haute Couture. Oh, this is some real 80s looks here. I mean, you don't get much more 80s than this. As a kid, I would have thought she was unbelievably beautiful. That was how I thought women were supposed to dress. Or that. This was more like the Princess Diana look here. Kind of like the Golden Girls, a little bit. A lot of loose-fitting attire. And we get Princess Diana plans for her next child. Whether it's a boy or a girl or one of each, she and Prince Charles will face problems of sibling rivalry blissfully unknown to the rest of us. The rambunctious Prince William will be no ordinary big brother. And that's Prince William. Above, from top down, Princess Anne, Princess Margaret, Prince Andrew, and Prince Edward. So, and they were all really, really young. And this is when everything was happy. Baseball's most winning losers. This is some Peanuts cartoon strips. You know, I grew up with Peanuts in the Sunday newspaper. I mean, it was, and I would read it religiously. I always read Peanuts because I felt like I had to. I felt like it was just part of growing up. But you know what? The older I got, the more it just never made sense. I would read them and chuckle at them, but as I get older, I realized none of them. They were almost like the Far Side. And the longer they went, like into the 90s, they just got stranger and stranger. The Lucky One. Looks like more drama. How winners stay fit. Ooh, and now let's cut straight to the desserts here. It's like stay fit, and here's a big apple pie. And here's a delicious looking sponge cake, another apple pie, Texas chili, game hens. Yeah, let's stay fit. Key lime pie, one of my favorites. Lady Baltimore cake. Shoe fly pie. From the Pennsylvania Dutch is gooey good, thick with molasses and crowned with crumb crust. That sounds so good. Southern baked ham, grits and grillades. A Creole combination of sauteed peppers and beef strips wreathed in buttery hot hominy grits. Fish chowder, Mother Anne's birthday cake. Oh man, this stuff looks good. Kentucky bourbon cake. Chicken pot pie. Oh, that, and then there's all the recipes. Toss a Fiesta. Oh, here's another thing I wanted to talk about is salad dressing and stuff. So, you know, you go to the store now and you can find barbecue seasoning, you can find all these different kinds of salad dressings. You got French and ranch and buttermilk ranch and Thousand Island and Chipotle and all of the stuff. Well, I recall, and maybe I just lived in an underserved place, but it was French, Thousand Island, or vinegar and oil. Ranch seemed to have come along later. French and Thousand Island is generally what we always had. So I grew up with French dressing on my salads. And I don't know about blue cheese either. I don't remember it. Maybe it was there. Philadelphia cream cheese. Taco salad. Seasoning mix. Lawry's nacho cheese sauce. Match light barbecue. More cigarettes. Okay, here's Italian. Okay, look. This is vinegar and oil. Okay, this is what I meant. It may say Viva Italian, but all it's in there is olive oil and vinegar and maybe some spices. That was typical dressing. You had to shake it or it was sauce separated. You just didn't have a lot of dressing choices. Jif extra crunchy peanut butter. Rich and creamy is rich and famous. Ice cream. That doesn't even look like ice cream. It looks like a baked something. That ad doesn't work for me. Is that Zsa Zsa Gabor? I think it is. Flea killer. Here's another thing in the 80s that was popular, and I don't know if this still happens or not, is when we lived in a little neighborhood cul-de-sac, the Swan's truck would come by, and my mom would buy bread dough. And they also sold like the bread pans and everything, and she would bake the bread. It would come frozen, and she would just stick it in the pan, which, you know, a greased pan, and she'd let it rise. By the end of the day, it'd be all like inflated, and then she would bake homemade bread. I don't know if they still do that or not. Kool-Aid. They used to sell this in a big pack, a big envelope, and I haven't seen those in years. And I always wanted that as a kid because my mom would get Kool-Aid and she'd get the little packets that just had the flavoring in it, and then she wouldn't add very much sugar. Well, and the big thing was like the whole cup of sugar added already. So really, you're paying for the packaging and a cup of sugar that you probably had at home. But I always wanted that because that was like the whole cup of sugar and it made it taste good. There was 2 or 3 flavors of Kool-Aid then, orange, red, and purple, and then like when Ghostbusters and stuff came out, then they made like green ectoplasm Kool-Aid and stuff. Purina 100, more cigarettes. Minute rice. Do they still make minute rice? Oh, here's ranch dressing. Yeah, you add milk. I don't know if they made it in a bottle or not, but I don't remember ever getting it. Cutter insect repellent spray. Tupperware. They used to have Tupperware parties. It's like every mom was part of some kind of group. They either sold Tupperware, or they sold Mary Kay, or my mom sold Princess House, which was crystal, and they'd have parties, and then they would come over, and mom would, you know, they would have tea and stuff, and then mom would bring out the crystal and show everybody. The company was called Princess House, and then, you know, they would buy the crystal stuff. This is the man cigarette here, because he's on a tug, or what are those things called? The boats that bump other boats around. Uncle Ben's converted rice. Oh, here we go. Here's some salad. Let's see what we have. Bacon and buttermilk, bacon and tomato, bacon and parmesan, and creamy bacon. 7 Seas bacon dressings, top craft and taste test. See, I don't remember this, but I guess it existed. This is 1984. Ortega taco salsa. Sea Dog. What is this? The taste your dog's been fishing for. I don't think that lasted very long. You don't really... Here's the... I don't get it. Sea Dog. More cigarettes, and the end. Well, I hope you enjoyed the stories and this trip back to 1984. I guess I was way off on salad dressing. I guess I was living in a underserved area in terms of salad dressing, because I just don't remember all those varieties. Or maybe my mom and dad just only liked French. But I didn't know that they had ranch back then. But anyway, it's nice to see Princess Diana in happier times. And it was nice to think about being in 1984 again. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you like my channel, please subscribe, give me a thumbs up if you like the video, or leave a comment, or both, and click the bell icon if you want to hear about more videos. Alright, until next time, bye.